Welcome, everyone. Another Monday night live Q&A with Dr. Rob. So we're grateful to have Dr. Rob here. And we are here to answer questions. If you're watching the video afterwards, we would invite you to join us on the live opportunity. You won't be seen or heard, but you can type your questions in anonymously and we will ask and answer them. So any of the webinars, we've got a number of them. You'll find them on the seekingintegrity.com website, and there's podcasts and free drop-in groups. I will take just a moment since we're waiting for questions. A drop-in group is very different than a webinar. A drop-in group is you need to be there live. They are not recorded. There's a person that is holding the safe space so that they are, there's no name calling, bullying, there's not women in the men's groups and men in the women's groups, et cetera. We hold the safe space. But there's so many volunteers every week on our platform that are offering those drop-in groups and other hosted webinars. I will note too that this week Angela Spearman is joining me on Wednesday as a special edition webinar. So I hope you join us. That would be at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. So please join on that. Okay, Dr. Rob, we have a question. SA with 2+ years of sobriety, a CSAT, SAA, slowly going through the steps. Things between my spouse and I are starting to feel normal, but that's making it easy for me to put recovery work aside. How can I stay focused? I don't feel like I'm in danger of acting out, but recovery is getting hard because I can lie to myself and say it's not needed anymore.
But it's interesting, Tammy, because this I don't know if you folks know, but after someone goes through treatment, we do something called a virtual step down. And what that is we don't like to leave people once they've been through treatment. We want to stay connected to them professionally, at least for a period of time. Because what we found is when people really fall on their face is when they go home and they don't have the same structure and all that. So I was running one of those groups today. That's the reason I'm saying it. And there was a gentleman who was really struggling with his sobriety because his wife was very angry and upset with him that he was doing something she didn't like. He was looking in a certain way. He was thinking about things in a certain way. She was very upset with him. And he said, well, I guess I've lost my sobriety. I guess I have to start all over again because my wife feels very frustrated with me that I'm still, whatever it was, looking at women or whatever it was. And what I had to explain to him, a couple of things, was that our goal in coming to treatment, 90%, 95% is that we're in trouble. Most of the men come into treatment because they're afraid of losing their wife. They're afraid of losing their job. They're afraid of my job. And I think our job as a team is to move them from that person upset with me, I'm going to lose everything I have, to I don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to look in the mirror and see that. And so I can completely understand if your motivation, or as we might say, if your wife is your higher power. So if your motivation is to keep her happy, to make sure she's feeling good, and that's what's really motivated to be in treatment, and now that she is doing better and is feeling well, that shouldn't be the motivation that shouldn't be unmotivating, because you're missing the point of it. The point of it is I'm glad things went better. Thank goodness I'm doing the right thing. Our relationship is getting better. But my motivation is about who I want to be and what kind of man. I had someone say to me recently, I had to figure out what kind of father I wanted to be. I had to figure out what kind of friend I wanted to be. So he had to reevaluate who he was in the world. And so I can understand that. That the relationship is going better. You might say, "Woo, okay, I don't need to work as hard, or I don't need to work at all." But the truth is that I'm glad that's happening. But it could be just as well as she left you and never spoke to you again, and you still have to you have to choose, or to choose to be a different person, live a different way, and to be more respectful to yourself. So I'm not sure, Tammy, if that's what's being asked, but what I hear a little bit is about motivation, which is
Oh,
now that
yeah.
things are going well, what is going to keep me motivated? And so anyway, that was what came up for me. I wonder if you could throw some
Oh,
stuff in there.
yes. I often say with 12 step that the first sentence was catching to me. It's like slowly growing through the steps. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that is such a that plays into people relapsing often. I'm like 2 years in and you haven't completed the steps. I hear a lack of motivation in that. I often say though about 12 steps, it's so amazing to me how the addict brain works is that, oh, this has worked really well for me. Things have gotten better. So I'm going to stop doing everything that has gone well for me, that has helped me be on a different path. And then I'm going to wonder what happened, when everything, falls apart. The acting out is the like there's a reason why it's inner circle. It's the smallest circle. It's like the acting out is the smallest part of recovery. It's like, abstinence is just not acting out. Like that doesn't mean we're in any kind of recovery. So our addict brains are really good at deceiving ourselves and saying, oh, look, things are going bad. Oh, you don't need to really do that work. And I suspect since you're crawling through the 12 steps, I'm concerned that you haven't done steps 4 and 5 yet. And lots of people go, oh, I don't want to do that. That's so scary. The housekeeping steps are 4 through 9. Those are the ones that help us clean things out. They remove shame. They give us a whole different perspective on life. Steps 10, 11, and 12 are the maintenance steps. You can start those right away, like so that you don't keep making a mess. You can, clean things up right away. But my concern for you is that this is not sustainable. We talk about like a pink cloud and things get better and start, getting better. And then we quit doing all of the things that help. I mean, I talk to some people, that are new in this stuff. And I'm going like, I go to more 12-step meetings than they do. And I've been doing this for a longer period of time because it's so important to me. And it's not, do I think I'm going to go act out? No, like absolutely. Well, probably not absolutely. Probably not, because I do my little insurance plan to make sure that I don't. Do I think I could if I didn't, if I got off the beam? Do I think I could? I absolutely know I could. I'm an addict. So it's one of those things where I have life too good. Why would I want to slip back? And the other thing I've learned on this journey is, I'm always learning and growing. Like I read the same stuff that I've read, I can't even tell you how many times. And there's always a new thing I learn, a new nuance that I learn. And so, so to me, I'm on the board of directors for SCA, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous, and I just recorded a little thing for them. I wanted to contribute. And while I'm not a member of that, I'm an outside director. It also permits me to do service work, which I really value. All of this stuff keeps me in the mindset of I have a lot to lose if I choose to go back. But the in one of my 12-step groups, we talk about the smallest part is the not acting out. It's learning to live life on life's terms. That's what we do in recovery. And so I would invite you, what would it be like if you made a decision to do 90 meetings in 90 days right now? If you decided to complete those steps in those 90 days so that you were on a better path, I bet you would see a transformation just in that amount of time if you were willing to do that. So, there's no resting on our laurels in this. I'm really a firm believer of you're either moving forward in recovery or you're sliding backwards. There's no real coasting. You're muted. You're muted.
I didn't have my earbuds. I put them
Yeah.
somewhere and then moved
Yeah.
back over to there. But this is what you're questioning now. Is exactly what she said. It's like, okay, I'm thinking I'm sort of straddling the fence, and which way do I want to go? And I guess I'll say something else to you about this, which is um, uh, uh, feelings are not facts. We say that a lot. And because you feel that you've reached a certain point, that you feel that you are in a really good place, doesn't mean that that's truly a fact. I would wonder whether you're sponsoring people. Are you sharing with other people what you've gotten? I would wonder, eh, you know, I think this is a great exercise is to sit down and write your values and your ethics. What has meaning to me? How do I want to treat people? How do I want to treat myself? What kind of man do I want to be? Really, if you're questioning, then dig in. One of my favorite things to do, by the way, is to say to someone, okay, what then? So let's say you do stop working and you act out and your wife does whatever she does. If she really is your higher power right now, then I'd like you to think about what happens after that. You know what happens after, if you're not maintaining what you need to be maintaining now, and it is of concern, and it concerns me, and you end up where you just might end up, I would think ahead, like, okay, what is going to happen to my relationship? What is going to happen to my self-respect? Rather than just syncing up to this moment and saying I'm doing fine. I'm really glad you're here. I think this is a great question to ask. What is my motivation when I'm feeling positive and good? Um, and it's a hard question to answer because we say the road gets narrower. So the road to, oh my God, my life is falling apart and I don't want to don't know what to do, to, okay, things are going well. What is the next thing? Is not a crisis. And the last thing I want to say is that crisis does not produce solutions. You know, because I'm a drunk and I drive into a tree, I may say, oh my God, I'm never going to drive drunk again. I know what happens. I know what happens. But a year or two later, that goes away. The thought and fear about that goes away. And what comes more strongly in your head is, I want to go do this. So do not think that, and I think I say this to many of you, don't think that, oh my God, now that this has happened, I will never again, or I know because I've learned from this, because that will go away. And you will eventually be back where you were, unless it's a lifelong journey. This isn't a single spot. You're in one spot, go to the next and go to the next. So anyway, I have a lot of passion about this because I can understand it after many, many years. But, for me, we all have our motivations. For me, if I can help somebody, that's my motivation. So anyway, good question. What's on the horizon?
The next one, SA, after 7 months, I've just finished a 45-day sexual withdrawal to reset my nervous system. How do my wife and I restart our intimacy? I'm assuming sexual intimacy after that. What does normal and I assume sexual intimacy look like? Because we've talked so many times about intimacy versus sexual intimacy. So,
Well, so I can give my standard answer because I'm not sure I have one that's so great. I was also working with someone today in a different setting, and he said to me, I'm doing really well, but I feel like my wife and I aren't as intimate as I'd like us to be. And I said, oh, you're not having sex? And he said, no, we're having sex. And I thought, okay, good. He's got the part that intimacy is not sex, and yet they're not being intimate. So if you separate those two, what is missing? And we went through how to create intimacy, and it's so simple, but it's so difficult. So Tammy and I are going to do this right now. Tammy,
okay.
ask me how my day went and what's going on with me.
How did your day go? What's going on with you today?
I got a lot of stuff done, and I'm really feeling good about myself, and I'm looking forward to the evening. Um, does Tammy feel drawn to me and she wants to lean into me about that, or should she kind of sit back and say, "Oh, good, I'm glad things are going well for him," and then move on? So
And
now,
that's what
Tammy,
I would do. Yeah.
I want you
Yeah.
to do it again.
Okay. Hey, Dr. Rob, how was your day today?
It's been a little difficult, Tammy. I mean, I try to keep my spirits up, my God, but if I move one more box, I think I'm just going to lose my mind. Now, something has happened that's different than before. Tammy, what happened between
Because
us?
then I would I immediately got the connection. Like I know how hard moving is. I know, Dr. Rob, I know how hard moving is, and I know it's been really difficult, and this has been a long journey for you, and there's been a lot of things. I can appreciate how difficult your day has
Okay.
been.
So empathy
Hmm.
and by the way, we became more intimate because, by the way, I took a chance that Tammy would actually be interested in what I had to say and wouldn't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry that happened, but let me tell you about my day." That would tell me someone I'm probably not safe to be vulnerable and intimate with. So with your wife, I'm more interested, and this is what every single spouse wants: the sex, the craziness, the involvement of other people. It's very difficult and unbelievably painful. But every spouse says, he's never been intimate with me. He's never been open with me. He's never told me what he was feeling when I went over to want to talk about things. He said he was busy. That is what intimacy is. So when you walk up to you, I had someone today who said something about, I know what it was. I'm not being intimate with my wife. And he wasn't talking about sex. And I said, have you told her that? And he said, no, I haven't told her. I've been kind of ruminating about it. I said, well, why don't you do something intimate with your wife and tell her that you're worried that you're not getting closer and what do you need to make it. We also talked about, and I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible, most respectful way possible. Sometimes when men are having sexual experiences, they don't have erections, or they don't have the kind of erection they would like to have. And men, boy, we are so like, we want to do it right and we don't want to displease them. And, we'll push ourselves harder and harder because I got to have that erection. I've got to please them. But that's not intimate. What's intimate is saying to your partner, I'm kind of not into it today. And I kind of wish I could. Boy, is that rather than being in your own head saying, what am I going to do? I don't want to disappoint them. I've got to. Then you put all the pressure on yourself. And that's not intimate because you're all alone. And by the way, this came up too. If you don't get an erection and you're pushing yourself and you don't say anything, what do you think your partner says to themselves?
I must not be
Exactly.
enough. Yeah.
Exactly. Then they go to, oh, well, maybe I'm not pretty enough, maybe not attractive enough. So
I'm not like all of those other images or all of those other people, and all
that he
the
used to
negative
get all
comparison. Yes,
right.
the problem is me.
So what's missing is you're simply saying, this is a truth for me that I'm a little ashamed of, I'm a little uncomfortable with, but I want to be closer to you. And I know that the route to being closer to you is going to tell you what's true for me. You may accept it, you may not. You may feel good about it, you may not. But I have made the attempt and been open and said, I want you to know who I am and what's going on with me. And to me, sex is the ultimate sort of form of intimacy because it is making yourself incredibly vulnerable by not wearing any clothes and all of the things that come with being sexually intimate. So it's a process of revealing and revealing and revealing and revealing until actually start revealing things that are very intimate and sexual. And Tammy was exactly right. I appreciate it. Is it so easy for me to say, to toss it off and say it's fine, it's good, it's no problem, but that doesn't bring someone closer to me. They just say, "Oh, good, glad they're doing well," and they haven't heard me, and I haven't gotten the support. But it is the hardest thing in the world. Addicts want to look good. They want everything to be fine. They don't want to be upset. They don't want to be upset. They don't want to disappoint other people, and they don't want anyone to disappoint them. So this is just a really hard step. It's a great question, but the answer is by revealing yourself more and checking it out. And I'll say one more thing. Boy, when we tell you guys if you have a slip that you need to tell your spouses, if you end up acting out that you must tell your spouse, we do that because yes, they'll be angry. Yes, they'll be furious. Yes, they'll be disappointed. But a part of them will say, "Well, this is interesting. He didn't lie to me. He didn't keep things from me. He took the risk of being open with me about what's going on with him." And it won't be a good evening, but there'll be some part of her that says, "Huh, I'm not in the dark now. I actually am being let in." So that's a whole bunch of stuff, Tammy. We have talked about before. Is there anything you want to add?
I do because I like just because the clock went to 45 days, like where are you guys at with this? Does your wife want to be sexually intimate with you? Like, and I'm just hitting send. So there's something called sensate focused touch. Maybe it's like you hold hands. Maybe it's like you massage your feet. I mean, you start with the non intercourse actions that will that will help set that vulnerability and connection. It's about touch, it's not about sex. And so, and like Dr. Rob was talking about, if the focus is like, well, we need to have sex because it's day 46, like could it be, I just want to be connected. I want to feel connected, and I know for me that sex is going to make me feel connected, so therefore it's day 46 and we made it through the 45 days. i would like to I would like to invite you to have a conversation. Like Dr. Rob talked about, it's like, the scary thing is having a real conversation. I find with most couples, they don't talk about it. They'll ask questions on here and we appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. But you aren't talking to each other. And if you need your qualified professional to navigate that, that's okay. It's just say,
Mm-hmm.
we're scared,
Mm-hmm.
and some CSATs are trained and can give you some, guidance. At some point it may be, we need a higher level of help. And there are sex therapists who are also sex addiction professionals that, can help with that. So I don't know what you need, but I would and go, okay, first of all, what is the goal? And if the goal is to connect, well, in what, like, both of you journal about all of the different ways we could connect, like what's going to be meaningful and bring us closer together. And if one person's is sex, and that's the only thing, I would invite you to watch more of the webinars because we talk about it all the time. Dr. Rob, in June 2 years ago, I think, he likes Chat GPT, and he pulled up on Chat GPT because we were talking about intimacy, and and people were conflating, sex and intimacy, and the top 15 words had nothing to do with sex. And so what is the goal? If the goal is to be more intimate, there's lots of ways to get there, and sexual intercourse can be part of that, but that's, like Dr. Rob said, that's kind of the culmination of it, not necessarily the, like, this is the goal that we're going to go do this, so.
Well, I have to go to the other side, Tammy, being an
Okay.
addict, which is kind of like, now this may not be you, but this is where my head goes, well, it's been 45 days.
I know. That's what I said. If we're doing the clock
It's been
thing,
45 days. And so now I get to, because after all, I've gone through all of this. So now it's not I deserve it. Now it's my time. And
mhm.
I'll just say this, when I was doing the early work, my sponsor said, I want you to take 90 days and not be sexual and not flirt and all of that kind of stuff. And I learned a lot. I learned how I dressed, how I walked, how I addressed people, how I acted. Like, I learned so many ways in the world that I used myself as an object to try to attract other people, even how I looked at them. But when that 90 days passed, I still didn't know how to date anyone. I still didn't know how to grow relationships. What I knew was how to not do that. But all the good stuff that comes out of not doing that, I was a novice. I didn't know how to build. So stopping is good, resetting your compulsive brain is good, but the positive stuff, it's going to take time, and it comes out of stopping. It doesn't come because you stopped. Okay.
Great qualifier. I appreciate that. So, okay. Betrayed partner, 1 year post discovery, have a CSAP. I cannot wrap my head around how my husband sat in the room next to me while he talked to his affair partner. Then he fled. No apology, no acknowledgement, no remorse. I filed for divorce within 2 months. Help me understand what just happened. I am heart sorry for you. Do you want to start?
Oh, I was waiting for you, Tammy, because I know
No, I just was like so sorry. I like it. Like, yeah, like,
you just keep going, because
I'm
I
sorry. Okay.
feel that.
Yeah, no, I do. So I am sorry that he was so caught up in his, the how he can, be in the room next to and talk to his affair partner, like, welcome to addiction. And I'm not being snarky or facetious, like compartmentalize, like, it doesn't matter. Um, but I also hear is, that he fled, no apology, no acknowledgement, no remorse. So in other words, no recovery, no working on his addiction, no no working to change. So you have an addict in active addiction, and he's choosing to do those things, and it's easier to just cut and run, than
Hmm.
to take responsibility. If we take responsibility, then we are also committing to change. So, but that doesn't change your grief. And so I'm gonna find it. We've got some
Right.
things,
That's
some
what I
webinars on
wanted you
grief.
to.
Yeah, because grief, whether he's there or not, is still, I mean, there's grief. The grief of the loss of the relationship, the grief of
Mhm.
the loss of the husband that you thought you had, the grief of the future, that you had hoped for. I've got another one for you too. So we have an attachment wounds work group coming up for partners. I will put that link in there too, because you have abandonment wound, betrayal wound, rejection wound. Like, those are three that I can think of. You might have a neglect wound, but those three are plenty enough. And I think, Troy Love is doing that, and that would be, I think you would feel that resonate, with you. What I hear is a very broken person. He cut and run. And while it negatively impacts you, it wasn't about you. It's about him. Like, he's emotionally immature, and he's choosing to do all of those things. And he will continue those behaviors with other people until and unless he gets help to change. So this was never about you. And I know that's hard to believe. It was never about you. It's about, it's about him and his problem. So, and addiction. I was just talking to somebody earlier, and it's like sex and porn addiction aren't about sex. Like, everybody mistakenly thinks that no, it's just like alcoholism isn't about alcohol, gaming isn't, like, oh, it's so fun to get. No, it's that intensity, and that compartmentalization and that escape. It's the opposite of what we were just talking about with intimacy. It is lack of vulnerability, the lack of connection,
Right.
it's easier to just, I'm leaving, so I'm sorry, and I'm telling you for sure, there's healing for you. So there's a moving on alone. I'll pull that too. There's a moving on alone drop-in group on Thursdays. And the focus on that one is the only one we have that has the focus specifically on not saving the relationship. And so it's for partners who have been left, or have one foot out the door. And so that one may be, useful for you too. So I'll pull that.
I want to add a couple of things, and
Please.
I want to shift the focus a little bit, which is I don't know if he's an addict. I don't know, just because he has an affair and cheats on you and lies to you and sneaks around doesn't add it. Not saying that he isn't, but to me, this is a guy who had an affair. He was done with his marriage. He had no problem sitting in the room with because he was already on the way out the door. So while you say, and I understand, I don't know where you are, but again, we don't know your lives. We just make sort of suggestions and ideas. I feel that he was completely in love with you and everything was great. And you were, my guess is that it was really shocking that even if things weren't good or there were challenges, that he would have gone this place. And what I want you to know is, say, how could this happen? This didn't just happen. He started this affair years ago or months and months ago. And then he decided, oh, that situation is better than my situation. And so I want to get out of here. So he's sitting with this woman while he's in the room with you because he's already left. And he's sitting with her thinking about on the phone with her, well, my wife's here, but I'm going to do this. And when are we going to do it? So if you think simply about having an affair and they are getting ready to worried about how it's going to lead if they had to worry about feeling and make it hard for them. So as Tammy said, this isn't about you at all, but it is about a decision. And the decision to come over this one has been thinking about, talking about, and engaging and planning all of this long before he did what he did. He left you with no answers, no understanding, a complete, again, like we said, what did I do wrong? Why can this be? And I don't think people divorce just because of this. I think that my experience is people cheat, people act out, but when people are divorced, there are fundamental things in the relationship that go beyond, I was cheating on you. And so I believe that there was probably, at least at his end, things that he was unhappy about and intimate, not talking about, not opening up. And his solution was to find someone else. And I'm so sorry. I will say one of the challenges that we have as men, addict or not, is it's easier for us to move another relationship. It's easier to leave someone when we already have another relationship waiting. Unfortunately, like not men tend to go from person to person. And so not addicts, it's just, what we do for a lot of reasons. And so I'm deeply sorry, as Tammy said. I think to pin it on addiction might make it easier in some ways because you can say, oh, that's what's wrong with him and that was the problem. I think this is a man who, for whatever reasons, said, I'm out of here and I'm going to find something else. And to sit with you in the same room and make these plans, he was making these plans long before he sat in that with you. So I think I would only see it as best I could as a man who had made other decisions, who I was no longer important to, and he left you long before this. That's what made it easy for him to say these things. And I'm very, very sorry because I do think when people separate, it can be collaborative. You can talk about it. You can work what he did. Why would you ever want to talk to him again? Why would you ever want to deal with it? And if you have kids, two of you are going to parent. Walking out the door, I think, is one of the most violent things you can do to someone because you have no idea. And so I respect the choice you made, and I really hope you can find peace with that. This is a choice he made, to not work on the relationship, to not grow, and to go off and say, "Well, I'll just do what I want to do," which is what addicts do. So do men who are cheating and treating people badly. So, um, anyway, that's my thought. Tammy, did you want
I
to knock something
appreciate that.
else in
Your
there?
internet is a little unstable too. So, because you're,
Oh,
so,
because
so, so check that
we
if you
just
can.
well, I'm just signing out and sign back in, so I'm going to do that.
Okay, you do that. and then he'll read the next one. So I'll put it in. So betrayed partner, 6 months in, getting CSAT therapy, and husband is in CSAT therapy and 12-step. Formal disclosure will be this June. We are both making progress, but I'm finding it so difficult to go between building closeness and dealing with my anger and sadness over his decade of continuous affairs. He is trying to develop intimacy and relationship skills, but I'm impatient for closeness and also confused and so angry. Can you offer advice on how to get through this difficult time? Well, I will share some insights with that. So you're 6 months in, like Dr. Rob has talked on other webinars and things. I better watch for him because in case he doesn't pop in right away. He's not there yet. Okay. But he's talked about, like the first 18 months, it's kind of that ambivalent. Well, it's not kind of, it's ambivalent love where it's, I love him, I hate him. I love him, I hate him. I want to be close and I am so angry. And anger, is often a cover. A lot of people say sadness. For me, it was a great cover for hurt. You can, like, you share, the sadness over his decade of continuous affairs, the hurt that he chose to have affairs, for 10 years rather than being close. Oh, here he is. Are you? You're muted, but you're muted.
Because we moved, the router isn't set up right, and so I have to figure out ways to make it work. But I'll
Okay,
do my
but you're
best.
going back and forth. So um I'm going to put this one. It's from 510, and I'm putting it in the answered so you can see it. Okay. So it's the betrayed
Sure,
partner 6 months in is the one. Okay. So you should be able to see that.
I see.
So, and I
No, I
started
can see
answering
that.
it, but it's, so, Dr. Rob talks about, of course, you love him, you hate him, but that anger, is real. And he's trying, I was just sharing with somebody earlier, real recovery takes 2 to 5 years. He's 6 months in, he's had 10 years of having affairs, so if you do the math, like he's very early on. And you said he's doing a CSAT and 12 step. That's good. And the formal disclosure will be in June. Okay, so you have a plan, and I wonder what it would be like for you to give yourself permission to have that, sadness. We often talk about journaling, and journaling can be so helpful of just, Debbie McCrae has talked about having an anger journal, and like she had a separate journal for anger. So she could just vent all of the anger in that spot. And that helped her get it out, and helped her get it out of her head, because if it's down on paper, then my brain isn't going, oh, you need to remember that. Now it's down on the paper. And I'm not going to sit there and reread that one, but at least it's down on paper, and that can be a helpful way of processing that. But of course you're angry, of course you're incredibly sad. I shared a little bit ago about the grief webinars and things. There's grief, the loss of the relationship you thought you had, the like the uncertainty of the future, like all of those things that are still there. I'm glad he's doing the work. I mean, thank goodness. Like, we hear all the people that kind of, dabble in this stuff. At least he's doing the work. He won't show, like, in active addiction, we are the opposite of having any empathy. We don't know how, we cannot keep you in mind, or we want to act out, like that's the
Right,
whole premise of addiction is,
right,
as long as I can keep it compartmentalized and you're over here, and as long as you don't know about all of this stuff, then it's okay, and that's the lies we tell ourselves. Like, this is the process, and giving yourself permission to, and it's okay to tell him, I am still so angry. I am so sad. Yeah, all of those things. If he's able to hold that emotional space for you, that would be huge. And if he's unable to, we've done lots of webinars where we talk about, here are some tips you can use to go, I just need a timeout. I'm going to go, ground myself, and then I'll come back, all of those things, so that we're making those connections rather than, making things worse. So, but yeah, and but it literally is okay for you to go, I am so angry and hurt, but yeah, like this is not the relationship I planned on. I didn't expect to be here, and it's hard one day at a time, to move forward, but you're not alone. The betrayed partner work group would be, a really helpful one. I think it would help give you some framework for some of those things. I'll put the link in, for that. And I hope you're going to some of our drop-in groups. I'm glad he's doing that stuff, but for you to have connection with other betrayed partners, I sub in on those, and they'll say, "I'm so angry," and that's okay. And he's doing the recovery work, and that's it's just part of the process with all of this. So, Dr. Rob,
Well, I see 6 months.
yeah,
And I think how early that is and how confusing it is and how getting CSAT therapy, getting him into, you're really in there's not been disclosure. There's so many unanswered questions. And so I use the word respectfully. I think you're a newcomer to this process. And this isn't like most other things we go through in life. This isn't like someone died. There isn't like, I couldn't have, I mean, I don't want to go through, I don't want to compare people's facts and pain, but most people don't have the built-in capacity and understanding about, oh, I know how to handle this. So whatever you're going through, I just want to say it's healthy. It's what we go through, and it's really important to me you don't blame yourself. One of the things that our partners talk about, in fact, a friend of mine wrote about, is called ambivalent love. And ambivalent is love is I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. And we're having a really nice evening, and I think, oh, remember when this and that? And then I see you walking out the door, and I think, well, where effing are you going? You're probably at it again. And keeping those two things in your head at the same time is really crazy making. There's nothing wrong with it. It's what it is. The cheating and the lying and those issues weren't all you had. You had parts of the relationship that were good, that were warm, and you're longing for that. But you look at the situation and say, well, but look what happened. So I really recommend you give yourself a couple of things, the grace to feel like a crazy person, because that's crazy things have happened to you. And when crazy things happen, we feel like crazy people. Um, there's a couple other things. I understand the longing for closeness, and I think that it's a very legitimate need. And whether or not this man was able to provide that or not, you had some sense of it for yourself. Um, you can't look at him now and say, well, I'll be close to him, I'll depend on him, I'll lean into him, because he hurt you and he's not available for that. And so the closeness is something you need, but you're not going to get it in that relationship. Your job is to distance yourself. Your job is to be angry. Your job is to figure out, can I even move forward here? And it depends on what happens and all of that. Um, so I respect your longing for closeness, but I think it has more to do with you than it does with what's happened. And I mean it in a good way. You're lonely. My partner is my best friend. When I come home on the difficult days, I said, wow, let me tell you what happened to me. That's my rock. And, I don't mix metaphors, but you don't have a rock to hold on to right now. And to me, this leads to what Tammy is saying is that, and this is, I think, the hardest part, is you have to get help for yourself. There have to be other women who are going through this who you can turn to who will say, I'm crazy too, and let's have a cup of coffee, or I'm lonely too. And it's really hard for me to tolerate. I look at him and I wish, and then I look at him. So, and I don't mean to be trite. I'm not saying, well, go talk to a friend and get some comfort. I'm meaning meaningfully engage in a community of people. And we have a number of free ones. There are ones, many places. Don't take this on alone. Um, I'm impatient for closeness and confused and angry. Of course you are. There's nothing wrong with what you feel. And I think some people say, well, how could I want to be with this person after what they did to me? There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just that he is not available for that. He's not available for that. By the way, you aren't either. Because for him to turn to you and say, oh, my program, this is so hard, and I don't get to sleep with other women anymore, like, how are you going to support that? So he needs his place to go to deal with the issues that have been long-standing. And you've lost something that's very, very meaningful to you. And you don't know how you're going to get back. You don't know if you're going to get back. You don't know what form it's going to take if and when you do. I think once disclosure happens, that will provide a lot of answers and insight. I'm a little concerned that it's so far away, because I think waiting months and months, that's not what I feel comfortable doing, because I think it leaves a partner in limbo for such a long time. And I wonder if your husband's the one who said, well, I don't want to do it right now. You maybe we can wait a while. I don't know. But I do think that you have the right to say, I want to feel more safe and I want to know what's going on in my life and I don't want to wait. I have to count, well, 6, 8 months to get the truth of what's going on. And I think that would cause me more pain too, because did this happen? Did that happen? So all I want to say is I completely understand where you are. I think so many spouses who are listening do. I think so many who are out there getting support, and don't do this by yourself, because once you understand that you are one among many who are dealing with this and feeling the same way, it won't be like being with him, but it will comfort you and it will bring you some peace. So anyway, that's all I can say. Be kind to you and understand that what you're going through is what all betrayed partners go through.
Yeah, I just thought of another. So Melissa from Wetonglin, I'm going to put that in the chat. Uh, she created Wetonglin. She originally started with our drop-in groups, then she created an organization, and she talks specifically about how important the connection is with other partners. And so I think that could be useful for you as you consider, like, what do I need to do. I also put the Out of the Doghouse work group for him, because that's for men who've been caught cheating, and that's how they can start developing trust. There are others, like Dr. Eddie's are fantastic. There's a bunch of them. If he's got a solid foundation on recovery, because we always have sex addiction 101 or porn addiction 101 is the starting place. But if there's a solid foundation of recovery, going, like, it isn't just abstinence, it's just not acting out, but we're working on the journey, we're making progress, we're doing our 12 steps, we're doing the work, then you're seeing progress towards that. Then, Out of the Doghouse would be a good next step. So, okay, Dr. Rob.
Well, I want to add a couple of things,
Okay.
which is you're also very new at this. 7 months is not really a full
No,
time to get a
six
sense.
months.
Was six essay
Yeah,
with
yeah. I
7.
haven't read the next one, so
Oh,
I'm going to
okay. I see
read.
where you
Yeah,
are. Sorry, sorry,
yeah.
sorry.
So
Let me
I'm
go
going to
back
read
with
the
that
next
then
one.
just for 1 second. Yeah, we talked. I mean, again, we talked
Yeah,
about
yeah,
that. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I was on
Yeah,
the
I was
next
just adding on.
question
Yeah.
because
So the next
I was
one is
already thinking I want to add that
essay
one.
with 7 months
Go ahead.
sobriety. I'm starting my steps now and writing my restitution letter as well. I know that rigorous honesty is required for both of these. I'm struggling to maintain momentum to do these. Do you have some advice?
Yes, accountability. Left to my own devices, I will sit around and eat chocolate cake if I have an eating disorder. But I can call somebody and say, you know what, I'm really thinking about that cake. And they may say, well, go out, do this, do that, go to a meeting. If I say I'm going to work on my steps, then I have a sponsor that's part of the relationship. And I say, it's Monday, and by Friday, I'm going to get through this one. So that left to my own devices, I get it. I'd rather lie around and, eat ice cream. But if I have, it's just like work. What do I want to work? No. Would I rather lie around? Sure, but I have a responsibility to my family to earn a living. I have a responsibility to the people I work with to support them and be a part of what we're doing together. So I think what you're looking for is internal motivation. And I'm not sure addicts are always very good at internal motivation, but external motivation is sort of odd in a way because depending on someone to help us through this, we can lie, lie, lie. But is there something about, and maybe Tammy understands it better, saying to someone, I'm going to work on this and I'm going to check in with you and let you know how I'm doing. We do it also with people go online and struggle with porn. You got to go online. So what do? You call that person before you go online. You say, listen, I'm going online and I'm a little concerned. So I'm going to call you the minute I'm done. We call it bookending, but you're creating accountability, which is you're not on your own with your own thoughts thinking, well, I should do this, I should be doing this. You actually have it, you have said to someone else, I'm going to do it, and we're in agreement on that. So I'm sure Tammy has other things to say, but the first word that came to my mind is accountability. And if you don't have the people in your life to be accountable to after 7 months, if you don't have a sponsor, if you're relying too much on therapy, by the way, I'm starting my steps now. Tammy, would you like to say something
Oh,
about
I was
that?
so glad you went first, because I was like this is I'm gonna own it. This is one of my pet peeves. Like it, it- and here's why. Like, eh, my program is good. I still work my steps. I know how important it is. I see when people actually do the work, how their lives change. So when people choose not to, which is what it is, back in the olden days when 12 step first started, they would sit a newcomer down and they do all the steps like in one sitting. You do it, and then you do it again, and you do it again. And so I'm old timer. I'm an old schooler, and like I heard early in my recovery, the elevator to recovery is broken. Please use the steps. And that stuck with me. I've shared that at countless meetings because like that's where things change. If we want the promises that come true, they do. They do. They come true, but not if we are dabbling. And I'm going like you're in the most painful place where you don't have any of the freedom of recovery, and you're
Right.
not acting out. Like that's like hell. That's the worst place to be. Like because you're not compartmentalized and off using your addiction, and you also don't have the happy, joyous, and free of recovery. So if I could wave a magic wand, and I don't have one, and you could see how good it would be, it would change your motivation. You'd be going like, hell yes, I want that, and I'm willing to do what I need to do. But I'm with Dr. Rob. It's accountability. How many meetings are you going to commit to? Like I said,
Right.
commit to 90 meetings in 90 days. Commit to getting through step 5. Like at least by the end of the 90 days. And then it's the progress and talking to your sponsor, talking to your peer accountability group. Yeah, I say to lots of people, and I know literally thousands of CSAT trained therapists around the world. And I don't care who you're seeing. If you're seeing somebody for 50 minutes once a week, the addiction is a 24/7 issue. And if you don't have like when the going gets tough, like you have two things, the restitution letter, like hopefully your therapist and your sponsor and peer, accountability are helping with that too. Like get help. Like that's what this is all about. We don't have to do any of this stuff by ourselves. But if we set up an accountability plan of like, yep, I'm checking in with my sponsor, I'm going to tell my therapist, but if I'm going to have my restitution letter done, like, I'm kind of surprised that you aren't through steps 4 and 5 if you've already done your formal therapeutic disclosure. Like, I'm a little confused, but I'm going to own that I'm confused and I'm trusting your process. But like, set up, realistically, 2 sessions, 2 weeks from now, could you have your restitution letter, and so that you could set that up? The relief you will feel by getting this stuff done is immense. Like it's like letting 100-pound weight that you've been dragging around. Like that's what all of this stuff is about. That we don't have to keep carrying, this shame and toxic stuff around with us. So I'm choosing recovery. I'm choosing this for the long haul. I'm choosing to get this stuff done. Here's the other thing about the steps. It's not one and done. Like people in recovery will do the steps over, or they'll do it on a specific issue. So it isn't like, oh, done that, phew, like the person earlier is my motivation is waning, like that's when it's time to dig in and choose. I want the good stuff. I want to keep growing. And I do in recovery. I continue to grow. I have not arrived. I was really hoping I was going to. And then I went, nope, I'm grateful that I continue to learn and grow, and I have opportunities to continue on this path. So
I want to add something.
please,
Now, Tammy, I always pay absolute and strict attention. That's not true. Sometimes I'm
no,
distracted because I want to look at something that
yes,
makes me think. So I thought of the phrase easier and softer way.
yes.
And this
I say
is
that often.
right
Yeah.
from the 12-step work.
Hmm.
So I want to say those who do not improve are often those unwilling or unable to be completely honest with themselves. Trying to find, and this is not in the book, it explains it, trying to find an easier, softer way reflects avoidance and a partial rather than full effort to effect change. Progress requires thoroughness, honesty, and a willingness to follow the program as aligned. Without that level of commitment, it's unlikely to produce lasting result. So we don't get to have an easier, softer way. We did before, but we don't now.
No, and I'm going to disagree with you. I say often my easier, softer way is continuing on the recovery path. I don't create chaos and terrible things in my life anymore. So it's a whole lot easier to maintain and continue to grow than it would be to go start all over again. So, I like I say that, yeah, for now, the easier, softer way for me is like, yeah, keep doing what's been working for me for a long time. So, but if you're new to this program, like you just have to, I trusted people that told me, like, if you're willing to do this, you can have a good life. They were right. I believed them. They were right. And I'm telling you guys,
Right.
you can, but you got to be willing to do the work. So, okay, the next one. Betrayed partner 5 years from discovery in divorce process, still living with the addict partner. He's not in recovery. The level of avoidance is next level, only communicating through lawyers, even though living together. He brings up issues for the first time with me about minor things through his lawyer. For our or more realistically, parallel parenting future, is there any hope for change for him to be more conventional and two-way communication? That's a great question.
Yeah, and honestly, I have a lot of different answers 'cause I think there's more than one question there. So I'm wondering what comes to mind for you, Tammy, or I don't know where, I kind of don't want to start because there's so much there.
Yeah, well, and I'm like you're in like you said, the level of avoidance is next level. So, and I can only imagine how difficult it is for both of you guys, but you're also talking about, co-parenting. And so so it's very difficult now. I would hope that once you're through the divorce and you have some separation, you can breathe a little bit, both of you, then perhaps it would be an opportunity to say, can we, and maybe, I'm going to pull it. We had, somebody that talked about mediation. We've also had collaborative divorce. I'll pull that one too. But at some
Mm.
point, could we, can we, like, we neither one need this, and we don't really need to make the attorneys rich. Could we possibly have can we just, and maybe it's like you go, here's an agenda. Could we meet and have these are the things, and we keep it to those issues, and we discuss those. And if we need to level up, then we hire, a therapist to help mediate or something like that. And, so I don't know. I hope it's almost final because gosh, it's got to be so difficult. But yeah, even if he's not in recovery at some point, hopefully, I said no addict changes until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. The pain of writing the attorney bills might, be motivation for him, even if he never gets into recovery, so I don't know. But thoughts on it?
Sorry, I don't mean to be
No,
rude. That was just
no.
because Tammy and I have been so indoctrinated in the last possible decision you would ever want to make is hire an attorney for this.
Yeah.
Because all attorney, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but they don't really care about you. They care about resolving the situation and figuring it out and what does a judge say, and it doesn't really help you as individuals. So I'm sorry you're already in that situation, but number one, you're living together, and I don't see how you could feel any sense of meaningful clarity watching this person on a day-to-day basis. I do, I really want to highly recommend in this case. Our my podcast is called Sex, Love, and Addiction. Sex, Love, and Addiction, and it's been pretty darn popular because there aren't a lot of people who have answers to this. And I interview professionals who are dedicated to these kinds of questions. So I actually did a series. It was 4 or 5 of them all in a row, and one of them was called Therapeutic Separation.
I just
And
pulled the webinar on the same
well,
topic.
after all
So
these
yeah,
years,
yeah,
Tammy, we
yeah.
are one
I know we
thinker. But
melded.
but
Yes.
you're not divorced yet. So what does it mean to be separate but living together? And I know couples that are still sleeping in the same bed. I know couples that are still eating meals together. I mean, I don't I think you're asking the right questions, but it has to be concrete. This is also about facts and not feelings. What I learned from these women, and I know this sounds simplistic, it's not your situation, but for years and years and years, I never could understand how you could be in a separation and live in the same house. I could never understand that. And they said it so simply. They said, well, it's kind of like being roommates. And I was like, oh, I get roommates. I don't sleep with them. I don't smooch with them. I don't. So, but there are solutions to be able to tolerate and manage the situation you're in. And I think just getting more information than Tammy and I can give you. So I did two. One is, well, I did two called Therapeutic Separation. And then I did, I think, 2 or 3 after that called Collaborative Divorce. And I would listen to all of them because the bottom line of what they talked about is in each area of your life, you need to have boundaries and clarity. What are we going to do about money? How often are we going to communicate? What are we going to do about, and I'm talking during separation, so it's a consistently negotiated process. So, and I'll give you just an example with separation. I have couples who are separated, and I'll say, well, how often do you see each other? Well, every day. Well, I often talk to each other. Well, we text each other every evening. We have breakfast. It's like, well, you're not really separated. I mean, what is separated? Separated is this is how often we talk. This is how often we engage. It's clarity. So you are going on the facts and not on, oh, I miss them and I wish we could see each other, that you really have a separation. Um, so I think there are ways to manage this that will leave you feeling a little bit less alone. I do also recommend, I'm sure Tammy put in there, for moving on alone. The work group that we do, which is absolutely work group, yeah.
No,
Work
it's a drop-in group, but it's
drop-in
on
group that's
Thursdays. Yeah.
absolutely
So yeah,
free, and
yeah.
you will hear people who are struggling with this. But to me, you're in between a rock and a hard place, and you're going to have to tolerate this in some way until you are not living together, and maybe over time there'll be a way to learn how to communicate with each other without using these people in the middle. Um, because you're going to have to deal with each other your whole lives. The lawyers are not going to be there. So how do you learn to improve whatever it is you need to make better, whether you're together or not? And figure it out, every single piece: where, when, how much, how often. So it's as clear as it could be. It makes it a lot easier to know, I'm going to see you Thursday, but Friday we're going to look at the finances, and it's kind of accountability to each other. I am sad to hear about the lawyer thing. I have nothing against lawyers, trust me. They have their place, but in crisis around interpersonal and loving relationships, I just don't think their methods necessarily mirror what you need. And some
Uh,
people need.
th- yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, but they don't. And the fourth webinar on the webinar series was legal, and he says the law system, the legal system, is not set up to handle any of
Right.
these. Like that's not what it does. It can't. And so if
Right.
yeah, it's just so yes, the more you can, and there's therapeutic separation, there's collaborative divorce podcasts, webinars, all of that. Yeah, so check all of those things out. And for you, partner, I would highly encourage self-care, making sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you're staying regulated during all of this time,
Right.
because that would be very difficult. So just understanding, he's an addict in active addiction. So there, it's like that, so he's not going to be able to show up in any kind of, real and meaningful way. So what do you need to do to take care of you? So
And
regardless of what he's doing or not doing.
and don't watch TV together. Don't sleep
Yeah.
together. Don't have meals together. Act as if you are already divorced,
Yeah.
because that will take a lot of the. I feel like it would be so great if we just. Well, it would feel nice, but it isn't real, and it's going to confuse you even more.
Yeah.
We got
I
time
think
for
on
one.
this one, they're only communicating through lawyers. So I have a feeling it's like, yeah, okay.
Still
SA
living with
struggling.
addict. Anyway, you go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. SA struggling with wanting my partner to heal faster, probably even pressuring her through my words or behaviors. I own this and I don't like this at all. I know she needs her time to heal at her pace and needs me to be there and present versus being focused on the future. What are some things I can do to help myself move away from this thinking and stay in the present to continue to create safety?
Well, a word and a action come up for me. The word is empathy, which is, you know, I think you've mentioned it, which is she probably even feels pressured, and I own this. Well, I'm sorry you own. It's nice that you own it, and I'm sorry she's feeling pressured. But are you thinking about what it must be like for her? Not I wish I couldn't do this and I'm doing too much and I wish, but what is it like for her to feel pressured? What is it like for her to not have her own space to take care of? You said, I know she needs her time to heal. Okay, but how are you making that happen? So, and needs me to be there and present, versus being so focused on the future. Actually, I'd prefer you weren't so present and you weren't. You guys have a long way, and and boundaries are required. So empathy is one of the things to come to mind. And the other thing is absolutely out of the doghouse. I mean, I wrote a book specifically for men, how to heal a relationship where they've been cheating. And there are chapters in there about you're going to want to run in, you're going to want to give things and do things and make everything better. But that's disrespectful and not the way. How this is how. So you don't have to know how. We teach a course. I wrote a book. And by the way, this is my most popular book. Why is that? Because men don't understand the pain that a woman goes through when she's cheated on, and they certainly don't understand how to fix it. The last thing I want to say is I'm not sure this anxiety and all these things you're feeling are for her at all. This is about you. I want, I need, I would feel better. Even I wish I could do it differently. Why don't you just do it differently? So sit down and ask her. What would leave you feeling better about my giving? You can talk about this, but you're already aware of it. And I'm glad you're here. You're taking actions, you're asking the right questions, but there has to be actions in place. What are some things I can do? Okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Partner, what do you think I can do? Now, she may say, oh, I miss you, I want to be with you. Understandable, but you know that that's not going to produce the healing that you need. By the way, you need some time and space. You need one of the things I think is hopefully the addicts get to over time is they may come back with me and they may not, but I'm going to be okay anyway. And that's because my own recovery, my own healing, becoming the kind of man or woman I want to be, that has become my priority. I would be devastated if we didn't work it out, and I would blame myself forever. But I could turn to, I have been a good person and I'm doing the right thing in order to sustain me. So I would really like you to be looking elsewhere for what you need and how to get yourself fulfilled, other than moving away, not moving away, thinking this, thinking that. You're on the right track, you're asking the right questions, but the changes need to be concrete, things you're going to do or not do. Again, this is my theme for the evening. Feelings are not facts. And what actual things are you going to do to leave her to, it's funny, to give her space? It's not your job to give her anything. Actually, she can have space or not, whether she wants it. It's your job to give yourself space from pulling her in and out and all that kind of stuff. You don't give somebody space, they take it. So anyway, it sounds like I'm giving you permission to take care of yourself. You know what I mean? It's just kind of arrogant in a way. But
Well, and he said, follow up to pressure pace question, also dealing with
oh,
feeling the need to speak on the feeling of hypocritical aspects of the relationship. I know my abusive behaviors like defensiveness have been part of the relationship forever, and I have no right to expect that. Now, all of a sudden, I'm doing better at it. She shouldn't be defensive in her communication. So, and I'm going like, I'm going, this feels so, selfish,
right,
because I want you, like, I'm doing better. And I'm also going like, and how long have you been doing better? You didn't put, that in. Real recovery takes 2 to 5 years. And so how long, if you've been doing this a hot second, and how long is your pattern of acting out and all of this other stuff? And now you're doing better. Like, she should see I'm doing better, and therefore, like, she should come closer and she should be doing her work so we can be together. No. And I'm with Dr. Rob. If she chose not to be involved with you moving forward, are you going to continue on this path? Because that's what the real actions are,
right,
is I'm going to stay on this path regardless of what that person does or doesn't do. I want to be the person that has integrity, that shows up. Like, I want to be that person. Not see it. It's like the little kid who's going like, see, I'm doing better. You should reward me because I'm doing something good now. I was doing really naughty and now I'm doing good. Like, it feels so out of, like, that's not a partnership, like,
right,
and this feels like out of your wounding. You're looking for her to make you feel okay. Guess what addiction is? I'm looking for something external to make me feel okay. It is not her job to make you feel okay. It is your job to show up for yourself, get the support from your accountability people, and show her. I had put the Dr. Eddie, demonstrating emotional leadership. Highly encourage you to watch that one. But your anxiety, like, I bet it's palpable. Like, I bet she feels like you're like, that would be that would be demonstrating the opposite action of this person is in real recovery. That would not make anybody feel safe. And so to me, there's a whole lot more work, for you to do, to just to it's going to be okay regardless of what she does or doesn't do. I say this to partners all the time. It's going to be, you can heal regardless of what he does or doesn't do. So flip I'm going to learn to be okay and I'm going to learn to be emotionally regulated by myself. If she's able to step into that space, if I'm able to create, trust with her, fantastic. That's what my goal is going to be. And whether she stays or goes is entirely up to her. You shift that focus, and do the work, and she starts to see, wow, those actions are different. I don't feel like I'm being manipulated or bullied into, like, you need to see me, you need to see how good I'm doing, you need to pick me. Sorry.
Well, I wanted to jump in. First of all, I believe you love her. And
Yeah.
I believe there's nothing that you would like better than to be closer to her. And that now, as many addicts do, you got caught, you got in trouble, and now you realize, oh my God, how important. I didn't want to see how important they were before because I could act out, but now that I see how important they are, I desperately want to be closer to them. Well, behaviors have consequences. And one of the consequences of all of this is you don't get to be close to her. I don't care how much you're aware of it, how much you want it, how much you finally see. It's not her being close is not a reward. Tell me you love this. Her being close is not a reward for the hard work that you're doing. And I wrote a couple other things down. I worry that might manipulate her. In other words, when she is close or is feeling closer, you really play into that and you work that and you encourage that. And like I said, she's lonely too. She misses you too. There may be moments when she, really feels closer to you. You understand that she's in a process and that what happens in the moment, feelings are not facts, that she may feel this way, but trying to build on that or trying to see that as a guarantee is not fair to either of you. The last thing I wanted to say is, and I think this is important to think about, that sex addicts we objectify people. We use people to make ourselves feel better. Sex addicts use actual body parts and being desired. Love addicts use the idea of how it makes me feel when I'm with you. Not anything about you, but how I feel. And there is a little bit of a line here which speaks to being an addict because she's being objectified in the sense that if she does this, I will feel better. If she doesn't, I won't feel better. And that's not seeing her for who she is. It's in a way, I think, seeing you through a lens that would make you feel better. And addicts do that. Well, if we spend more time, if I could just see the affair partner again, I'd feel better. If I could just, but what needs to help you feel better is letting all of that go and seeing when you can some joy and fulfillment without her. And maybe, it'll all come back and maybe it won't. By the way, to everyone, it will never be the same. Whatever your relationship was or you thought it was, it's never going to be the same. And if you think that, oh, now I'll finally have the closeness she was offering all along, you're not. You'll have a different relationship, but it's never going to be the relationship you had. And that is the consequence. So, Tammy, I'm going to run. I got to
I know,
pack
I
or
got to go too. And
unpack
there's
or
good, yeah, there's
I
good
know there are always good
questions.
questions.
I know. So join us next week and join us and type them in right off the bat. So
But you
otherwise,
can always write.
TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. And I'll do my
We will
best to point you
support you as
towards
best we
resources. So
can,
yes,
even if we're not
yes.
here with you. Take
All
good
right.
care.
Thank you.
Bye for
Bye.
now.